This is an overview of the Midterm 2 study guide. Let's get started. Question 1 is from Chapter 7. Choose two problem-solving courts, and there are three discussed, so they are the drug, mental health, or veterans problem-solving courts. So choose two of those. For the two courts you choose to discuss, describe how they work in detail. Include all the information. Also, discuss the pros and cons of each type of court. This is discussed in the text, so make sure you review that. Finally, discuss how you would respond to someone who tells you that his, her, or their opinion of problem-solving courts is a waste of taxpayer money and offenders should be sent to prison. All right, now you might agree with that person, you might not, but whatever you would tell that person, provide at least two reasons or examples that you would give in your response to that person. Question number 2 is from Chapter 8. Choose two of the four types of intermediate sanctions discussed in Chapter 8. And I gave you some page numbers to take a look at there. And explain in detail how these sanctions work. Discuss the effectiveness of these programs based on the research cited in the text. All right, so make sure you're reviewing that. Make sure that you're discussing that effectiveness. Gaining the trust of probationers is noted as one of the biggest challenges for probation officers. Provide at least two ways that you would approach the task of gaining trust of probationers assigned to your caseload if you were a probation officer. So do a little thinking about that. What might you do if you were a probation officer and you wanted to gain the trust of people assigned to your caseload? How might probation officers prepare to understand and work with the probationers assigned to them? Provide at least two examples. Okay, so one idea is about gaining their trust. The other is about how do you work with them? How do you try to understand them so you can be a better probation officer? Question number 3 is from Chapter 11. Discuss in detail how substance abuse issues are treated and analyze the effectiveness of these programs based on the research outlined in the text. Okay, so really good discussion in the textbook about substance abuse issues, how they're treated, but also the effectiveness of the programs based on research. Explain how chemical castration works on sex offenders. Should courts be allowed to mandate this type of treatment? Okay, that's just your opinion there. What do you think? What are the concerns about the right to decide what goes into one's body? Are these concerns valid, or is losing the right to decide what goes into one's body the price of being an offender? Support your answer with at least two examples. All right, so first discuss whether courts should be allowed to mandate the treatment, and then what are the concerns about having a right to decide for oneself about their own body, what goes into it? And then finally, are those concerns valid? Or might some people argue, well, that's just the price of being an offender. You give up those rights to decide for yourself. Whatever your answer is, make sure you're supporting it with examples. Question 4 is from Chapter 12. Choose two evidence-based practices and explain how these practices work and the rationale for them. Analyze the effectiveness of these practices based on the discussion in the text. Describe how you would handle the following violation of a parole agreement. A parolee under your supervision fails to report having left the state for a weekend trip to Las Vegas with friends. Until this incident, the parolee had complied with her parole's conditions. Be sure to include an explanation of the rationale for the decision that you made. All right, so this is really just asking you to apply what you've learned in this chapter. How would you approach that decision? I mean, you could be a hard ass, of course, and revoke the role, or you could do something else. And so I shouldn't have judged the hard ass thing. I should have just said you could have been a very consistent with the terms of the parole. Sorry about being judgmental. As always, if you study these, if you make at least an outline or write them out fully, as some people do, I'm sure you'll do well.